What do you think?
Today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Scheduled Incarnations. And we're on text 51 today. So if you have the verse in front of you, please repeat. This is 2:751. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Text 51, please repeat. Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Sangrahoyam Vibhuktinam.
Sangrahoyam Vibhuktinam.
Sangrahoyam Vibhuktinam.
Sangrahoyam Vibhuktinam.
Tvam etad vipuli kuru.
Tvam etad vipuli kuru.
Tvam etad vipuli kuru.
Tvam etad vipuli kuru.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Sangrahoyam Vibhuktinam.
Sangrahoyam Vibhuktinam.
Tvam etad vipuli kuru.
Tvam etad vipuli kuru.
Please chant.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Sangrahoyam Vibhuktinam.
Sangrahoyam Vibhuktinam.
Tvam etad vipuli kuru.
Tvam etad vipuli kuru. Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Sangrahoyam Vibhuktinam.
Sangrahoyam Vibhuktinam.
Tvam etad vipuli kuru.
Tvam etad vipuli kuru.
Anybody else? Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Sangrahoyam Vibhutinam.
Sangrahoyam Vibhutinam.
Tvam etad vipuli kuru.
Tvam etad vipuli kuru.
Word for word synonyms, please repeat. Idam.
Idam.
This.
This.
Bhagavatam.
Bhagavatam.
The science of Godhead.
The science of Godhead.
Nama.
Nama.
Of the name.
Of the name.
Yat.
Yat.
That which.
That which.
May. Unto me.
Unto me.
Bhagavata.
Bhagavata.
By the personality of Godhead.
By the personality of Godhead.
Uditam.
Uditam.
Enlightened.
Enlightened.
Sangraha.
Sangraha.
Is the accumulation of.
Is the accumulation of.
Ayam.
Ayam.
His. Vibhutinam.
Vibhutinam.
Of the diverse potency.
Of the diverse potency.
Tvam.
Tvam.
Your good self.
Your good self.
Etat.
Etat.
This science of Godhead.
The science of Godhead.
Vipuli.
Vipuli.
Expand.
Expand.
Kuru.
Kuru.
Do it.
Do it.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Oh, Narada. Who's speaking this verse to Narada?
Is it Brahma?
Yes, Lord Brahma. Oh, Narada, this science of God, Srimad Bhagavatam, was spoken to me in summary by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it was spoken as the accumulation of his diverse potencies. Please expand this science yourself. Maybe before we read the purport, we'll just give a little background as to what is happening. So we're here in the second canto, which I believe is called Cosmic Manifestation. Yes, it's called the Cosmic Manifestation. And the second canto, we'll go back a few chapters here. In chapter 5, so in chapter 4, Parikshit Maharaj was inquiring from Shukadeva Goswami, and he made inquiries as to the purpose and nature of this phenomenal world, the material world. And Shukadeva Goswami started to answer his questions, and in the course of wanting to answer his inquiry, he decided to turn to a conversation that had occurred previously between Lord Brahma and one of his sons named Narada Muni. So this is the nature of answering questions. If somebody asks a question, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. All we need to do is cite authority. So like that, Shukadeva said to Parikshit, well, I'll just repeat to you what Lord Brahma told Narada, because Narada had these same questions. So then we come to chapter 5, the cause of all causes. And in that chapter, Narada was amazed when he observed Brahma's capacity for being the creator. He acknowledged that Brahma was creating everything within this universe. So he, Narada, justifiably concluded that Brahma, my father, must be the supreme being. Brahma, however, instructed Narada that I'm not the supreme being. I'm just the secondary creator. I get my powers from he who's actually supreme. So then Brahma starts to describe to Narada about what's called the primary creation. That means the creation that's done by Vishnu. Brahma's creation is the secondary creation. So he said, oh, Narada, he said to Narada that until one knows about the Supreme Person, then it's natural for one to become bewildered when they see another person displaying great powers. Meaning, if you see somebody who's much greater than you, exhibiting powers that you just don't see in human society, then it's natural to conclude, oh, this person's the supreme. And therefore we find in every culture of the world, the Aborigines would worship persons that we, in our lingo would call devas or demigods, because they saw the sun and the moon and the wind and the rain and all these, and they perceived the personality behind all these things, and they worship them as supreme because they've got these amazing powers that we don't find in human society. So Brahma said to Narada, yes, until one actually knows in truth about the personality of Godhead Vishnu, then they must be bewildered and think that some other being is supreme. So you're just normal like that. He said, but I would like to describe to you about Vishnu. And so he gave a summary about the primary creation, which is the creation that is done by Vishnu before Brahma takes his birth to become the secondary creator within the universe. Brahma described the Virat Rupa, the universal form, and he described how he, Brahma, took birth from the lotus flower that sprouted from the navel of Prabhudakashayi Vishnu at the bottom of the universe. So then in chapter 6, he's describing all these things about the creation of the Manus, etc. And Brahma says that despite my own greatness, I cannot understand the Lord. Then Brahma agrees to begin narrating about the Leela avatars. The Leela avatars are pastime avatars. They are the incarnations of Lord Vishnu that are always appearing within this material world to perform particular pastimes. And those pastimes generally are for two purposes. One is to please particular devotees that they've appeared for, because some particular devotee is hankering to see them in that form. So the Leela avatars, who generally are non-human forms, like Matsya and the fish incarnation, Matsya and Varaha the boar and Kona the tortoise, etc. But these Leela avatars appear to reciprocate with persons who are desiring to see them in that form, and also to perform a particular function, either to annihilate a particular demon or to set some religious principle in place. So Brahma had said to Narada that one can't get over this bewilderment of thinking, this person's the supreme. No, that personality is the supreme. No, that personality is the supreme. They can't get over that bewilderment unless and until they actually know in truth the glories of Lord Vishnu. So he, at the end of chapter 6, said, now I will narrate about Lord Vishnu's Leela avatars. And he said that such hearing of the Leela avatars counteracts all foul matters accumulated in the ear. What is our disease? Our disease is that we have spent all of our time hearing. Unless, you're actually born without the ability to hear. 24/7 we are hearing. Even when we're sleeping, the sense of hearing is still there. Even when one is in a coma, they say that when people are either in a coma or in their last stage, right before leaving their body, and the whole body shuts down, all the senses shut down, that the sense of hearing is the last to go. So we have spent all of our time hearing, but what are we hearing? All foul sound vibrations. And what do sound vibrations do?
Pollute the consciousness. Distort the consciousness.
Yeah, why do they distort the consciousness? What do sound vibrations carry? We see, if we're having our eyes open, we see things, colors, forms, shapes. We smell things, fragrances, or the smell of garbage. We taste different things, salty, sweet, bitter. We touch different things, hard, soft, cold, hot. We hear different things. But what is it about sound that differs from all the other subtle sense objects? Why do we, always harp on, it's all about what you hear, it's all about what you hear. We don't say it's all about what you smell, it's all about what you touch. What does sound carry that the other sense objects are much more deficient in carrying?
Knowledge.
Information. Information. Knowledge is subtle but significant difference between information and knowledge. Information is stored like on a computer hard drive, but we wouldn't call that knowledge. Similarly, we might store so much information in our brain, but it's not knowledge. Knowledge actually requires the use of buddhi or intelligence to analyze it and put it all in shape and prioritize it and apply it and realize. So information is what's carried by sound. So we have spent all our time hearing foul sound vibrations, like prajalpa. Have you ever heard any of that before? You know what prajalpa is again? Prajalpa means unnecessary, mundane talk. Gossip, mundane news that has nothing to do with your life. Just all that stuff that's out there. Everything, they're not talking about Krishna or something related to Krishna or some information that you need, like I need to know what the weather is today because I want to know if it's proper for me to plant my crop today or do it tomorrow, or, unnecessary, mundane sound vibration. So Brahma says that has all accumulated in our ear. And you might say, what? My ear is like right here, I clean it every day, there's nothing in there. He's not talking about this gross sense object, this gross sense organ called the ear. He's talking about the subtle sense of hearing. Behind every gross sense, the nose, eyes, ears, mouth, touch, those are the gross senses. And we might lose them someday and get your ear chopped off or something, go blind. But beyond that, there are the subtle senses. So the actual sense of hearing, the actual sense of smell, etc., are not made of gross matter. So it's that sense of hearing that has accumulated for lifetimes all this foul sound vibration. So Brahma says, but by hearing about the Leela avatars, all the foul things within the ear become counteracted. So now we reach chapter 7, which is our current chapter, in which Brahma narrates the scheduled incarnations with specific functions, the Leela avatars. So we are on text 51. We're ending the chapter. There's 53 verses in the chapter. Today we read 51. So again, I'll repeat the translation and then we'll read the purport. Translation, Lord Brahma says, O Narada, this science of God, Srimad Bhagavatam, was spoken to me in summary by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it was spoken as the accumulation of his diverse potencies. Please expand this science yourself. Purport. The Bhagavatam, in a nutshell, spoken by the personality of Godhead in about half a dozen verses, which will appear ahead, is the science of God. And it is the potent representation of the personality of Godhead. So there's actually 4 verses, which are considered the nutshell, the Chatur Shloki, the 4 nutshell verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam that were spoken by Lord Vishnu to Brahma. And they're coming up in a couple of chapters. Chapter 9, texts 33 through 36. Those are the 4 original verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 2.9.33 through 36. He, being absolute, is non-different from the science of God. Srimad Bhagavatam. So here Prabhupada is saying that the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Lord himself, being absolute, the Lord is non-different from the glorifications of himself, namely Srimad Bhagavatam. We find in the first canto, 3rd chapter, right at the end there, verses 40 to 43, a nice glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada strongly makes the point in his purports there that if one associates with Srimad Bhagavatam, one is associating with Krishna. That Krishna and his devotees have appeared within the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Brahmaji received this science of Godhead from the Lord directly, and he handed it over, the same, to Narada, who in his turn ordered Srila Vyasadeva to expand it. This is referring to when Vyasadeva was lamenting. He had compiled the Vedic literature, and he was lamenting that he didn't feel satisfied. How is it possible? Sometimes people ask, how do I know that my service has been accepted by Guru and Krishna? I'm working hard all day, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. How do I know that Guru and Krishna have accepted my service? I'm not at the end of the day getting a hand of applause. I'm not getting a certificate in the mail that your service has been accepted. How do I know? I have doubt. And the answer is, if you don't have, direct communication with Guru and Krishna, you can say yes or no. Are you satisfied? Spiritually satisfied, not materially satisfied. Are we in our heart feeling the satisfaction that the Bhagavatam keeps, preaching about? The Bhagavatam keeps telling us that devotional service satisfies the self. Yayatma suprasidati. Right there, at the beginning of the Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter. Devotional service is glorified. And what does it say? Yayatma suprasidati. That's the characteristic of pure devotional service that's given right there at the beginning of the Bhagavatam. So you ask, how do I know I'm doing devotional service? Maybe I'm just doing karma yoga. How do I know my devotional service is being accepted? Yayatma suprasidati. That it brings complete satisfaction to the self. And if you're not feeling satisfied in your devotional service, then you have to understand there's something wrong with this picture. And what is that something wrong? Well, that same verse from chapter 2 gave a condition. There was a caveat. You want your devotional service to conclude with Yayatma suprasidati, that it brings perfect satisfaction to the self. Here's the caveat. The devotional service has to be an uninterrupted ahoitaki apratihata. Ahoitaki means unmotivated. The only motive is to please Krishna. There's no selfish motive. And then apratihata. It cannot be stopped or killed or interrupted by personalities or circumstances or time or space. If you can do that kind of devotional service that's unmotivated, it's just for the pleasure of Krishna, and it doesn't matter who gets in my way or what gets in my way, my devotional service is not affected. That kind of devotional service will lead to Yayatma suprasidati. Full satisfaction of the self. So Vyasadeva had said, I'm not satisfied after compiling the Vedic literature. I just did all this devotional service and I'm not satisfied. And Narada said, yeah, the reason is because you didn't properly glorify the personality of Godhead. You spent all your time on karmakanda and all this elaboration. But unless and until you directly glorify the beautiful pastimes of Krishna and Vrindavan especially, then you're not going to get that satisfaction that you're hankering for. So here we read Narada, in his turn, ordered Srila Vyasadeva to expand the science of Godhead. So the transcendental knowledge of the Supreme Lord is not mental speculation by the mundane wranglers, but is uncontaminated, eternal, perfect knowledge beyond the jurisdiction of material modes. The Bhagavad Purana is therefore the direct incarnation of the Lord in the form of transcendental sound. What other transcendental sound, Anne, is a direct form of the Lord? The Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And one should receive this transcendental knowledge from the bona fide representative of the Lord in the chain of disciplic succession, from the Lord to Brahmaji, from Brahmaji to Narada, from Narada to Vyas, from Vyasadeva to Shukadev Goswami, from Shukadev Goswami to Sutta Goswami. The ripened fruit of the Vedic tree drops from one hand to another without being broken by falling suddenly from a high branch down to the earth. How many people here have gone fruit picking, fruit trees? Most of us don't climb fruit trees to pick them, but if you go to more natural village-type settings, they don't have machines coming by and stripping the trees of the fruit, but they have a team of persons. And one person gets on a ladder, or they shimmy up the tree, like some people shimmy up the trees. But somehow or other, you've got somebody situated at the top of the tree, somebody 5 feet down, somebody else 5 feet further down, someone else 5 feet further down. And person number one picks the top fruit, right? And they don't toss it into a basket on the ground where it will just splat, They hand it to the person who's 5 feet down. And that person gently hands it to the next person 5 feet down. And it comes to the ground unbroken, unbruised, perfect condition. Similarly, the message of Srimad Bhagavatam must be handed down, hand to hand. Parampara, guru, parampara means one after the other, an unbroken chain. One guru passes it off to his disciple, who becomes the guru to pass it off to the next disciple. Ad infinitum, we go on like that. Not by falling suddenly from a high branch down to the earth. Therefore, unless one hears the science of Godhead from the bona fide representative of the disciplic succession, as above mentioned, for one to understand the theme of the science of Godhead will be a difficult job. It should never be heard from the professional Bhagavatam reciters who earn their livelihood by gratifying the senses of the audience. So Prabhupada ends Srila Prabhupada's purport. Prabhupada said that one must receive this Bhagavatam from the bona fide disciplic succession in order to understand the theme of the science of Godhead. What is the theme? We're supposed to receive this Vedic teachings, the Srimad Bhagavatam, in a bona fide representative in the disciplic succession. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for us to understand the theme of the science of Godhead. So what is the theme of the science of Godhead?
God consciousness?
God consciousness. Yeah. The actual theme or mood is, Srimad Bhagavatam means the beautiful pastimes of the personality, Bhagavan, and his loving devotees. That is the theme of the science of Godhead, how to actually love the Lord. Sambandha, what is our relationship with the Lord? Abhideya, how to act in that relationship. And Prayojana, how to actually experience the fruits of that loving relationship. So we'll stop there, see if there's any questions or embellishments.
You were saying, speaking about how, bringing up the question, how do we know if Krishna is pleased with our service? One thing I always learned was that if the devotees are pleased, then that's a reflection that Krishna's pleased too.
Right, so that's what we were saying, yeah, that if we don't have in-person feedback, you know, what if you're by yourself somewhere? If we don't have in-person feedback, then it's satisfaction in the heart. Yeah, thank you. Oh.
Yeah. I actually just I Pratihata devotional service should be without any mundane cause. Can't be terminated by any mundane cause. And can't be permanently curtailed by any mundane interruption. And also, I was reading just the other. I'm memorizing right now. Nishkama is a pure devotee who has no self-interest. Real peace belongs to him alone, not the one who strives for personal gain. Nishkama.
Right. From Bhagavad Gita 270, is that the verse you have?
That is from right around there, yeah. It is 270.
2.7.
Nishkama, yeah.
Yeah, that just as the rivers flow into the ocean unceasingly, trying to disturb the ocean and make it all like this, the ocean stays calm. It never rises 1 inch or goes down 1 inch. It's just the same because it's so deep. So similarly, one who tries to fulfill, when those rivers of desires come pouring into the mind, oh, here's another desire, here's another desire. If we become disturbed by it, then we'll never find, if we chase after those desires, we'll never become satisfied. But if one must be like the ocean that's never disturbed, he's the man that can be peaceful, the person that can be peaceful, not the one that runs after satisfying those desires. Okay, anything else? Otherwise, we'll end there. Jai Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Prabhupada ki Jai.
Do you want these boxes, Kevin?
Yes, I do.
What shall we do? There's another thing to play.
I just bring them home after I dress them. I dress them tomorrow, so I'm leaving them there.
Sorry, yeah.
Because Prabhu takes them off and puts them in there. I don't want them messed up like all the other ways.
So I'm going to put it by the waist.
No, you're going to put it right there because China knows what to do.
Today you dress. So you know.
Today I
Yeah, so
dress
you
them.
do it like this.
That's the reason why I should bring them home.
Because if she sees it, she'll throw this away.
She doesn't come, right?
Saturday.
She work.
Saturday she's going to come. No, Sunday. We're trying to clean, you
Well,
know.
I'm
that should
leaving
be a
it
place.
there for now because Prabhu knows what to do and I'm dressing tomorrow
Okay.
and I'll bring them back tomorrow morning.
Okay, maybe we should put it back. You will?
Did you dress for Bhagavatam?
No, I didn't.
Who did?
The teacher.
Oh,
So sweet, huh?
I don't know how to.
What if I dress for her? A little power girl.
It's like, where did you go? I'm not scheduled for any days, I'm just like a filling person. Oh, no, I wasn't. No, I wasn't.
Not the Saroja. Saroja was here, she was giving time, and I asked the question. Is she giving
Well,
class?
last Saturday she did, yeah.
Yeah, and then Gokulanda said, yes, she's doing it every week. And what is that?
Maybe for now on.
Yes. Because I asked, that's why I went. I happened to ask, I said, who's giving class next Saturday? She doesn't give class. She'll be happy with everybody. You were there last Saturday? Okay. I only know.